2nd District, Alabama.
Yes.
Why?
Wow, Chief. That's a real important question that I asked myself a lot before I decided to do this, to enter the race. And I'll tell you what came up for me. I've been very concerned as I look at politics today, and there's a moral fiber that is just disconnected. I think how we're treating people through the policies that are being passed, those that are connected to health care, that are connected to the prison industrial complex, to even voter rights being removed by very sneaky kinds of ways, I would say. As I look at the 1% that is having so much control of the money and the power in this country, and the 99% that are bearing the brunt of that. When we come right down to Alabama, when I look at 1% having an average income of $800,000 a year, and that 99% at about $34,000 a year, well, it doesn't take a lot to figure out something's wrong with that balance. Something's wrong, and how does it play out? It plays out in terms of taking away funds from public education, so that our schools are functioning, that were already challenged, are functioning and serving minorities and the poor at a rate that is not allowing our children to get the education that they need, to get the services that need to be in our public schools, particularly in a state like Alabama, where they need to have nutrition programs, they need to have special programs for children with special needs, they need to have family-based centers in our school system. So I'm real concerned as a former educator about the impact on our public education. Also, when I look at how we're treating our veterans, a lot of promises are being made. It's almost like the veterans' issues are like a political football that bounces back and forth, but the veterans themselves are not getting the services that they need. Jobs. Look at Alabama in terms of its economic development, and look at it in terms of a global perspective. When you have so much wealth controlled in such a small pot of people, decisions are made that are not for the people, whether we're talking about home ownership, whether we're talking about viable jobs. I look at my state in Alabama, we don't have a major influx of employment opportunities with industries that can provide livable wages. And we do a lot of service industry, but someone that's making $7 or $8 an hour, raising 3 or 4 children, a single parent, they can't make, that's not a livable wage. And when you take away the benefits of health care from that scenario, then you're really creating what I consider the moral gap in how we provide leadership for this country. There is a tremendous moral gap. Having said that, for me personally, my goal is to be a voice, to give the voice of the people an opportunity to be heard, to raise issues that people are not talking about. I know that there are a number of issues. Right now we're looking in our own community where there's been environmental injustice with landfills being in residential communities within city limits that are causing a lot of health challenges and many other kinds of challenges from home values being diminished. So I just use that as an example. But also it's the spirit of the people. And I think the culminating effect of all of this is you see a broken spirit in the people that shows up in people not wanting to be involved in politics, not feeling that politics represents them, not feeling like their voice matters. So I'm in this to be a voice.
Now, let me stop you there. You walked around the world.
Yes.
For 3.5 years.
Yes.
Advocating and promoting love, peace, and justice.
That's right.
Yet we have people in Washington, D.C. sitting right across the quote, the aisle from one another.
That's right.
Who cannot even talk to each other.
That's right.
What's wrong with human communications in this nation?
I think they're ulterior motives. Things have become so motive-based that they're no longer people-based. They're no longer human-based. They're based on a lot of economic greed and power, and I got to align with this one, so I have that kind of power. I have to align with this, so I have that kind of power. But it's not everybody, Chief. It's just the ones that seem to have the voice, that seem to have the attention of the media. And I think there are people that care in Congress as well as other political groups throughout the country. But our voices have been snuffed out, if you will. There's been a lot of very difficult and painful retribution for people who have spoken out, and not in a justice way.
So now you go to Congress as a brand new Congresswoman.
Yes.
You're going to have to choose between going along to get along in order to blend, or you're going to have to stand your ground on principle. How are you going to deal with that?
I'm going to have to stand my ground on principle, Chief. And I would be naive to say that there may not be compromises here and there, but the compromises I choose to make will always go on the side of the people. I think there are enough voices on the other side. Now, that may sound naive, like a new person coming into office, but I believe there are a lot of people right now that want to see a shift in politics. In fact, I think if we don't shift, politics as we've known it in this country is about to change and die out. So if we want to preserve a political structure and a political system in this country that works for the country, that the country is built upon, then we're going to have to make a lot of changes to provide a government that is for the people and by the people. So we have to stand up. And sometimes standing up, Chief, I'm walking around the world, we didn't always do things right by certain standards, but we did things with love. We brought groups together that people would say, why are you talking to this group and that group? Well, if we don't start reaching out and bringing our human family together, we're going to destruct. And that's what we're seeing. So much of what we're seeing that's happening in the world right now is telling us, it's showing us, look, you better change. Or, what you think is grounded and built on a solid foundation is going to slip away. Well, I want to be the voice for the people that says, we matter. We are the change, but it can only happen when we come together. So we've got to wake up the people, and once we wake up the people, we've got to walk together. We've got to make this country what it can be to fulfill the promises.
People from Dothan all the way to Montgomery in the 2nd District of Alabama, what do you say to them today about your candidacy?
I say that so many people say that we'll never turn this district blue, because it's always been such a strong, at least in the last 10 years, it's been such a strong Republican stronghold. And I say to the people, look, government is what we do. If we don't stand up, if we don't vote, we don't have a voice in the change. So what I say to the people from Dothan to Montgomery and all over District 2 is, let's wake up, let's join hands, let's put our differences aside, and let's create an opportunity for District 2 to become a powerful district where the people in District 2 feel that their issues, their concerns are being addressed by those that they're electing into office. It's not just a bunch of words, but it becomes a reality. But we create a long-term relationship with the community that continues to support the policies and procedures, so that when we do come up against difficult times, and people want to come up with all these stories about who we are to try to tear us down. We're used to character assassination, that they can't stick. It's like Teflon, because the people know the truth, and together we will make the difference, not only in Alabama but in the nation.
So who do you want the people in the 2nd District to vote for and when?
I want the people in District 2 to vote for Audri Scott Williams for the U.S. House of Representatives in 2018, November 6th. We'll have the primary before then, though, on June the 5th. So get out there and make sure you vote in the primaries and vote in the elections. We can turn it around, but we'll only do it when we do it together.
And those people who do not live in that district, even if they know somebody in that district, if they get busy and contact those people, that can help you get to where you need to be, right?
That's right. Even if you don't live in the district, even if you don't live in the state of Alabama, but you know people down here, you know people in District 2, pass the word, share the word, create the energy around this campaign. I know often on the walks, we would say, coming into an area where no one knew us, we'd always think about, okay, let's get this drumbeat going, where there's sort of this energy that precedes us as we enter into a community that can welcome us in. And I'm saying the same thing here politically. We've got to create a drumbeat that is so powerful and so strong, and we're going to do that by walking in every community. We're getting ready for a walk in Dothan, around the landfill, to walk for environmental justice. We'll be walking in Montgomery to we're calling that the Looking Back to Go Forward journey, where we're looking back on those that walked, such as Queen Mother Amelia Boynton Robinson and so many others, for our rights during the civil rights era and the voting rights era, and saying, okay, but what is our job now? So looking back to go forward. We're doing a walk in Ozark, over in Dale County, for education and veterans' rights. So we're going to take our walking legacy all over District 2, to every county, all 15 counties in District 2, and walk where people say we have a concern. And in our walks, at the end, we always sit down with a conversation with the community to let them talk, to let them tell us what their needs are. That's how we're creating the energy and the drive. People say, well, we haven't had anybody to vote for, that's why we haven't come out. Well, I'm saying you do now. So come out and join us in this election cycle. Get busy from now and take us all the way in to the elections in November 6, 2018, and vote. Your vote is your voice, and your vote matters.